Okay, we've been reading through this magazine for a while now, and have finally come to the article, which seems to be such a big deal. It's up here, right under the magazine's title, Steelhead. Now, I don't know what this picture is over here of. The subtitle here is Steelhead swims into the mainstream. Get it? Because steelhead is a type of fish. It's also the code name of this networking software Mark Minasai is about to start talking about. So this software is a way to do multi-protocol routing via the Windows NT server. So sure, the first paragraph is pretty hilarious because he makes jokes like this. So he says, in North America, fishing is a popular national pastime for whiling away leisure hours. It seems those folks who develop products in the IT industry are also prone to delving into the deep blue. Get it? Because Microsoft's blue. With Microsoft being the latest to become obsessed with all things fishy. So RRAS is the newest version of MPR software for Windows NT Server. Before release, the product was codenamed Steelhead, and it has a few things in common with the fish it is named after. For one thing, MPR software has moved from a very basic routing system that Microsoft never intended for heavy-duty use to enough routing power to take on jobs dedicated routers currently do. Okay, so I don't understand the connection to the fish. Do steelheads perform heavy-duty routing? With a new version of MPR, I decided to revisit a subject that I am familiar with, using NT Server as a LAN/WAN internet router for a small C-class or classless interdomain routing CEDAR network. But RRAS does more than make existing NT routing tasks easier. It adds new capabilities including single-seat router administration, greater speed, support for open shortest path first OSPF routing, integration with point-to-point tunneling protocol, and packet filtering. Okay, so Steelhead under the spotlight. I tested the Steelhead beta software, which Microsoft released as RRAS as I finished writing this article. The scenario I tested was basic, what Microsoft calls home office LAN. In the Steelhead documentation, figure 1, page 40, shows a configuration. Suppose you have a small business or a small part of a large business and want to connect your local LAN to the internet over a dial-up connection. You could always do this with NT, but doing so was a bit of a pain. Steelhead makes it easier for the NT server to act as your LAN/WAN internet router. The solution isn't perfect, but it's an improvement. So here's our figure 1 internet modem NT server running Steelhead. To set up a router with NT, he needed a machine with at least 32 megabytes of RAM, NT Server 4.0, Service Pack 2, Steelhead Beta 2, a modem, an ISDN, or other remote access service, and a network card. Other PCs on my local network have network cards, and I had to configure them with IP addresses from the block my ISP provided. So, okay, I'm going to skip all the details that he goes through in setting this up. Interesting ad for DB2. It's not just for Windows NT, apparently. HP, UX, Sun Solaris, Cynix, all these others can run it. So I guess this is a picture of people looking into a mirror, as if maybe that room's a database or something. And what a weird tagline, and IBM uses solutions for a small planet. Maybe that was just in Australia. Okay, so some cool graphics. Here's the routing and RAS admin window. Over here we have protocols and security. Screen 3, we're back to the routing and RAS window. So this is pretty interesting. How does it rate? He gives it a grade of C. He says Steelhead, his ISP or perhaps line noise was at fault, but he had quite a few struggles. Sometimes the connection stayed up, but the Steelhead router stopped responding to external pings. He made some attempts to send something, but had to sneakernet the files over, so I wonder whatever happened to this. He finishes by saying all in all, Steelhead wasn't as hands-off as he'd like, but it was a big improvement over messing around with... Okay, awesome graphic right here. Sybase Vision, huh? Okay, so he says it's better than messing with registry parameters. My old method of making NT act as a LAN WAN router wasn't kosher in the eyes of Microsoft tech support, which meant that if you couldn't make it work, you were high and dry. You'd like to see a throughput measure built into the tool, but Perfmon's RAS counters let you watch those statistics, and the user's interface is a bit clumsy. For example, I had to fumble around just to dump the IP routing table from the GUI. Now here he says to answer whether the problem was the router or the ISP, he re-implemented the C network connection, so that's the sized network he was talking about earlier. So he did this with a dedicated router, the Micro Router 900i from Compatible Systems. The MR900i is reasonably priced and comes with an Ethernet connection and a serial port, a nice basic LAN to WAN router. It does not do OSPF or port filtering, but you can do single seat management of multiple compatible routers through a Windows program that comes with the router. Rebuilding the network with a compatible router was a snap, no hitches, and the PCs on the network were able to access the internet for big and small jobs without trouble. This result suggests that the instability lay in the Steelhead software. And look at it here, we're in 1997 and he's talking about VPNs. So for that reason, RAS is quite a catch. They let you use the internet as a big private LAN. PPTP lets you do that trick, but for the best PPTP security, the router machine must also be the PTP server. RAS's higher performance means that you can use an NT machine as your LAN WAN router, even on a T1 connection, and that machine can also act as a PPTP router, where you might choose to open your network to the internet but protect the network from people using NetBIOS over TCP. In that case, filter TCP and UDP ports 135 through 139 under IP routing summary, right-click the WAN link and choose IP configuration. Okay, so I'll skip that part. Both RIP and OSPF are dynamic routing algorithms that discover routes through your network rather than require static routing. And I should point out this screen 4 over here, adding a static route for internet access. So he finally ends the article, and again with this head. I don't know what this head, how that relates. I thought this was a fish. So it's a head sculpture made of steel? Okay. So he finishes the article by saying, remember, I did those tests with the beta software. Try out the release version and see whether it's a good catch or you'll want to just throw it back. One last look at a really cool ad before I finish the video, which is now.